Hi, this is Vegan Synergy Meditation number 4. I'm Dharmendra Gordon. This is a weekly group out of Vegan World 2026 created by Sailesh Rao. What we do here, I'm just going to get right into it and give everybody listening a brief synopsis of what this particular group is about. It is all about accelerated collective evolution in the world we are all living in now in practice. In brief, it is open-eyed and interactive and works with the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious minds through various methods designed to activate, utilize, and develop the powers and capacities latent in each of these spheres. The emphasis throughout is finding the still center within and relaxing into one's essential and unconditioned being, and learning to think, speak, and act from that place of deep, lucid, and loving wisdom. The point of each meeting will be unique and will arise as a result of the exponential increase in conscious awareness and intelligence of all those present as the group moves through the 3 levels of consciousness. As a result, the expanded potential of the collective superconsciousness of all those present to discover innovative solutions to any and all of the problems that humanity is facing at this time will be one of the most potent and effective tools in the creative expression of compassion and action, especially since we are all, this is a part of a vegan scenario here, this particular meditation meeting that we do weekly. So just to remind people of what we did in the first Vegan Synergy meditation, I wrote out, I thought, felt, and sensed it might be useful to propose a theme in the form of a question to be meditated upon prior to our first Vegan Synergy meditation meeting. And the multi-part question is, number 1, if this was your last moment on earth, would you be totally at peace with it? And that is the Siddha, which means a miraculous ability, reflection point. And when I say miraculous ability, I'm talking about things like compassion or revelation or empathy, you know, those kind of miraculous abilities. The second question, is there at least one thing in your life you're giving your all to? And that's a gift reflection point. Gift is self-explanatory. And number 3, is there anything you can't let go of that is holding you back? That's a shadow reflection point. So in order to expand on that a little bit, if everybody can just be relaxed and kind of go into a silent meditative mode, I'm going to open these 3 questions up in a new kind of way to start our meeting this evening and to set the tone in a kind of sacred but practical way. So in relation to this being your last moment on earth, let's imagine for a moment that we are all capable of crossing the barrier between life and death and being able to step into and beyond the veil of life and death and into the realm where we can see what most people only would see after they leave this world. And if you need to, I'm sharing a screen right now, so you can, if you need to choose a Siddha from this list, you can also use that, and then you can go back to closing your eyes. But what we're going to do now is we're going to open, because we now have expanded capacities and possibilities, because we're beyond the limitations that the physical body was constraining us to while we were still in the opposition between life and death. Now we've transcended that, so we can actually go into, and whatever Siddha you would like, whatever one, if you have one already, don't worry about the list. That's just to help inspire you to a city, if there's one there you like. And just go ahead and choose that city for a moment in this expanded state of possibility. And just allow yourself to kind of become intimate with whatever is being suggested by that city to you. And open up through the center of your being, which is in the center of your body, to the luminous emanation that the Siddha is presenting to you. And the reason I say that is because you're going to allow yourself to start to enter into connection with this emanation and let it start to move you through your center. The more silent you become and the more open you are, whatever Siddha you're choosing can actually start to take you and give you a kind of journey along its emanation. And where we're going to go with whatever siddha you have chosen is back to the source of that emanation. So we're going to just trust and allow our higher nature to guide us and take us on a journey back to wherever this siddha is emanating from, the source of its origination. And we're just going to enjoy that. As it moves through our belly and moves through our entire being, we can allow ourselves to literally be infused with its mystery throughout our entire being. And it doesn't matter if you mentally or physically or emotionally or energetically or in any way whatsoever, it doesn't matter if you're even aware of exactly what state is being produced in you by connecting with this siddha. As long as you're open to what is being suggested and narrated here, it will have an actual impact in your life in a very positive way. Because many times certain siddhas we choose because we need to learn how to open to them. And so it may be very new. A very new siddha may not produce a whole lot of result right here in this moment. But the more you relax and just rest into your center point and allow the emanation to take you on a journey back to the source. And as we approach the source of whatever siddha you have chosen, one of the unique characteristics of siddhas is that they have kind of like, I would call, guardians. And these guardians, their whole existence is about keeping that siddha alive in existence. And they could be in the form of old sages or angels or beings that are indescribable, or they could be just incredible patterns of moving, living intelligence that we humans aren't even, familiar with. But whatever form they start to move in, that starts to heighten, in a very relaxed and open and releasing sort of way, your experience of the siddha. So you can start to actually, as you're getting a reflection from beings whose whole entire existence is that siddha, you can start to allow a subtle communication to occur between you and these beings who are the guardians and also the masters of this particular siddha that you have chosen to be taken on a journey by. And now we're going to allow ourselves to pass by those guardians. And as we do, you can also ask them for a blessing. You can ask them for a blessing in the form of a specific unveiling of a beautiful occurrence of this siddha in your life in a way that's the most optimizing in terms of the evolution of your being. And they will do that. Because there's only truth happens here. Only truth happens in a place this close to the source, literally the very fringe of the source, where all these siddhas emanate into existence. And as we take that blessing deep within our being, we're going to start to round the arc of the emanation now and allow ourselves to be slowly, ever so slowly, from wherever we are in existence, drawn back to the earth. So we may see it as a small point off in the distance now. And as we start to make distance from that emanation, the source of that emanation, and the vibration of it starts to cool down from the intensity it was at the source and starts to soften into our hearts and starts to open up the gift associated with that siddha. So we start to now allow the gift of that siddha to become a direct and personal experience through our heart that allows us to contribute something to the world that is worthwhile and worth sharing, and also something that other people will appreciate you sharing with them. And the reason I say that is because now, as Earth is definitely coming into view as if we were like a satellite above the Earth, and slowly, gently, but ever so in a kind of time warp sort of way, we're coming now into the upper atmosphere, and down into the earth. And what we're going to allow ourselves to do as we tune into the shadow connected with this siddha and this gift, we're going to allow that shadow to draw our gift into whatever part of the world needs it most right now. And we're just, as we are taken to that place, wherever it is in the world, wherever the suffering of the world can use our gift, as we're guided by the shadow, we're going to allow our gift to become literally like a downpour of energy of the gift. And at coming out of our heart with the deepest sense of care and love and just really being present with that part of the earth that is receiving our gift right now, and remembering also in our center that we are still on the emanation. We are still being like a magic carpet ride, being taken on this journey wherever we're going by the siddha that's associated with our belly, our center of being, the center of our body. And so as we come to rest on the earth in the very center of this shadow where our gift is now radiating out in all sides, powered by the siddha in the center of ourselves, we're going to allow the connection in our belly to move down into the center of the earth. So we're connected to the earth now, and we're rooting into the earth with this triple three treasure siddha gift shadow experience right now, and literally allowing the earth to also synchronize with the energy we're bringing from the source of the siddha which we have just visited. And again, no need to worry if there's no great fireworks going off inside of you about all this. It's really just about staying open and trusting the process, because enough pieces have been put in that it will manifest in your life when the time is right and when you're ready for that to happen. Which isn't to say that right now you're not also very attuned into and could be highly specific about where you are in the world, sharing this particular gift into the shadow area that has attracted it. And then we're going to just allow that energy to come back into our own center. And we're just going to be present in our own center right now and allow the siddha to absorb the gift and the shadow back into your center. And just remain for a moment with whatever it is that experience has elicited in you, in your consciousness, and allow yourself we're just going to give it maybe just a moment of silence. Okay, so now before we get totally cooking into the work of the evening, I'll share this 10 stages of accelerated collective evolution. Like I said I would do. Everybody's in a perfect space to receive that right now, I would assume. So this is, ACE is accelerated collective evolution, and these are the skills. And what I just went through in reverse order with a kind of new twist, just so we get touched by the siddha at the beginning of these meetings, so we really have a deep connection with each other right from the start. But basically the shadow, the gift, and the siddha. And in the shadow we learn to stop the world, get off the the boat of all the concerns with the world and release constraints, and we share our issues with sincerity and release our mind from the burden of everything it gets burdened by, which a mind does. And then as we move into the gift, we enter the space of inner silence and do vision work with creative imagination, which is all of the whole journey we just went on is kind of a vision work with creative imagination. And then as we met the source beings, the guardians of the siddhas, in the last step, the blessing is basically about the intent, the true intent of that siddha. And so we handle the force of intent, and it's kind of a help from above because it's in a place that's way beyond where we're usually associated with going. And from there, we can go into sacred geometry prayer wheels, which is the second step. And that's all about just embodying whatever siddha in your belly and releasing in your heart whatever the gift is, and then also in your mind, you're embracing the shadow down into your heart and transforming it. And so that's kind of the second step. So it's a little deeper application. Instead of just sharing your shadow gift and siddha, we actually get into a circle and we start to do it in a certain way, which we're going to do tonight. Once we get through the shadow level and move into the gift, we'll do more on sacred geometry prayer wheels. So I'll leave that for the experience. The third stage, stacking realities, Enneagram progressions. The real use of the Enneagram originally as it was intended, as it was introduced to the West by Gurdjieff, who was a Russian mystic, before it became kind of turned into this typology thing, which is not really a correct use of the Enneagram, but it is one way you can use it. It's kind of like a horizontal way of using it instead of a vertical way. And by vertical, I mean like totems. When you use it correctly, you actually can accelerate your consciousness into higher states of awareness. Using it as a typology, everything stays on the same flat plane as horizontal, doesn't really change anything. That's why I say it's kind of not really the real use it was intended for when it was introduced to the West. Anyway, so stacking realities is about when we get really good at these prayer wheels, we can start to learn to help each other to accelerate our consciousness and come into new insights, intuitions, and epiphanies and all kinds of things that help us to solve all kinds of issues in the world with ourselves and our relationships. So it's always about how we can apply it in our world. And then the fourth stage is where we learn, once we accelerate to a certain point and cross a certain threshold, as a group, we can start to experience higher forms of intelligence, not necessarily the fifth stage of angels, but maybe past teachers who were at a very high level of development spiritually, who may start to find a way to communicate with us as a group intelligence. And that becomes very interesting, because then when I say opening present moment, it's like you're dealing with beings whose lifespan is much longer than ours. So a breath for them may take a whole week, where for us it might take 3 seconds. So a thought for them, which we could enter into, and it could how could imprint our entire consciousness with an idea that's very deep, that may take years to work out in our lives. That's what I'm suggesting by opening present moment. And a time cell convergence of our time cell with the time cell of a being of a greater intelligence. And then the fifth is the angelic invocation, and that has to do definitely with beings of light who are only of the good. That's the only ones we contact through me, because I guess I was just lucky enough to have several decades of meditation before this particular skill was open to me. It's not something I practiced. It just started to be available to me after certain experiences, after many years of meditation. It's very interesting what happens there, because literally when we're doing angelic invocation, each one of us becomes like a mirror of a different organ in that angel. So the whole of us becomes like the whole of the angel, and it's very, very fun, very exciting, very exhilarating to start communicating in that way with higher intelligence. But we're still then dependent for our experience of expanded states of consciousness on other beings. When we step into the sixth stage, we're not anymore, and we're doing it all on our own. We're learning to, those lines of writing, the lines of awareness are exactly the emanation that we tuned into tonight with the siddha that we connected with. That's what the lines of awareness are that you learn to ride in macro-dimensional voyaging, which is just learning to move through all kinds of different spaces of possibilities and consciousness and other things without the help of angels, just all on our own. That's a little more advanced, because then you have to trust and your own and be very connected to your own inner being and the possibilities of awareness and consciousness that are there. And you also have to learn how to ride those lines of awareness. Tonight was the first step for maybe some of you in learning how to do that. The seventh is called direct perception and of reality, spiral of creation. That's where you start to learn to zoom in and out of different, how should I say it, total encounters with in either increasingly vast or increasingly minute visions of different aspects of creation. And you can also tune into the consciousness contained in those areas. And it's kind of indescribable when you do that, what happens. It's almost like you're having 60,000 thoughts all at once, and they all make sense perfectly, but it would take you more than 10 lifetimes to try and explain what you're getting in that moment. But those kind of things are possible at this seventh step. And then after that, the last three steps you can't really make happen. They just happen on their own once the first seven have become grounded to a certain degree and integrated into your overall sense of who you are. And the eighth is just you start to encounter not just masters from this world, but from many other worlds that are just incredible beings to encounter. And you literally encounter them as light insignias that sometimes look like beings like us, and sometimes they don't. They look more like beautiful, Zen paintings or whatever. That's the closest approximation I can come to. And the kind of encounters you have and the interactions and the intelligence you can exchange with them is again kind of indescribable. But it's really it kind of gives you the sense of, thank God I'm alive, and everything that I did in my life seems to have been because I was able to come to this point where I could have an experience like this. That's one of the moods that happens when you get into this eighth step. The ninth step is source attunements. That's where you literally, and a lot of people can call it whatever you want, source, God, however, but there are three primordial emanations that create everything in existence. And when you encounter those are, I think, probably absolutely unique to each being. For me, it was very unique. It was there was first an infinite sphere, and then I was embraced in this everybody holding hands circle of eternity. With the being in the center was an indescribable being, much larger than all the rest of us, and there was absolute peace and silence. And then the third one was I encountered a being of what I would call divine holiness that had no fixed form. It was like a pure movement of energy, and I realized afterwards it was the infinite spirit of the universal life force. And that's kind of like what happens when you come into what source is about, and that happens from source's side. You could be doing anything and that could happen. For me, one day I was just sitting in my garage and I leaned my head back on my couch, and all of a sudden I was embraced into the infinite sphere of sheer presence, which I call the ancient inexhaustible source. A lot of people call God or whatever. But I wasn't able to think. I was in this state of pure awareness for as long as that experience happened. It was maybe about an hour. It wasn't like overly long, but it was incredible. But I was able to look around in there, and the feeling was just of total purity. And again, like infinite presence, pure awareness. There was no thoughts during the whole time. Innocent, I felt absolutely innocent. And I understood what the word worship meant in the real sense of the word, what worship is. Because when you're in a space like that, that's all you can do. The experience is overwhelming, but in a very, very positive way. It wasn't uncomfortable at all. It was very infinitely supportive of who I was. It was very beautiful. And then the 10th is, after all that happens, you get a Buddha nature or manifestation. And in my case, it was just my Buddha name. It was like one day I was laying down after a certain intense whirling dervish meditation where I was whirling. So I was laying on my belly. And from one moment to the next, I was just, Dharmendra Gordon. And the next moment, I was spontaneous jewel cluster. And my whole being knew it. It wasn't said in words or anything. It was just a direct knowing. But there was a beautiful experience that happened the day before with the spiritual master from India that had left his body about a decade before. He was with me for the entire meditation, and he was just there like a presence to my right and above. And it wasn't like an imagination or anything. It was just there as he was in his life, but bigger and more loving and just unwavering, just sitting there as a presence. And it was really cool to see, because those kind of things don't happen that often. And he stayed there for about an hour, and the next day this spontaneous jewel cluster happened. So that's kind of sharing from the intimacy of my heart and some of the depth of what I've been through on my journey in life, on the path of awakening. And so that's just so you know, as we go along and go deeper into, and that's just a very, very brief, very, very super abridged, condensed. I mean, it comes out way more in the actual doing of it, and it really is a lot of fun to do, and that's understating it. But so I thought I would just share that, because that's where accelerated collective evolution can go. And tonight we are going to go into the hopefully we can get into the second step and do a little bit with sacred geometry prayer wheels in a new way, with the gift work. So that's what I had to share about that for now. So I'm going to stop sharing that and open the space up for, we're going to, I hope we all enjoyed that. I hope that was food for thought and thought for food. So now we'll just start with the shadow stuff, do our usual sequence. We're all going to go around and just share a shadow, and hopefully we can do it in kind of a sentence or two like I'm going to do. If not, it's okay. If you have to dig a little bit, it's okay. But I'm kind of excited to get into the sacred geometry in a new way once we get to the gifts. So once everybody, whoever feels like participating and sharing, you don't have to if you don't want to, you don't have to say anything, but if you want to, then we offer a shadow. And it's always worth it to do, because something always comes out of it the next day or in the next couple of days, or some new insight or capacity or a new connection or something. And we're not doing it for that, but that's just what happens anyway. In fact, if you did it for that, it probably wouldn't happen. So it's best to just stay honest and stay with whatever your process is. So my shadow coming up this evening is just, I guess it would be a kind of, this kind of inertia with the kind of work I'm doing now that's got me in a place where I'd really like to move along into a kind of work that gives me a lot more freedom to do this kind of stuff and a lot more of this kind of stuff. And also to be able to have a livelihood that supports me based on this kind of stuff that's a lot better than the livelihood I have now. So there's a little bit of bitterness and impatience, and let me just say, it doesn't, one of the things I want to dispel a lot of old illusions that teachers from the past and masters from the past may have had to portray because of the times they were in, but now and in the future, everybody's allowed to become very human about their awakening. And that's what I'm doing and sharing with you guys, is I want everybody to be awakened with me. And let's just all be human about it too. It doesn't mean you don't have emotions anymore and you can't just be ordinary and down to earth. And also you can talk, and get in touch with source and God and angels and whatever. All of it's okay. To me, it's the whole spectrum. You got to be, that's what a human is. It's everything from your deepest shadow to where everything comes from in existence. And so to me, that's much more what I see as the future definition of an awakened person, not just somebody who sits up on a pulpit and takes questions and you don't see them except for that hour in the whole day. And they're off in their room meditating all day while everybody else works hard and works their ass off to create the space. We all know, I think, some of us have been there and know what I'm talking about. And, but that's still the way it is in a lot of these spiritual transmissions still in the world today. Of brothers and sisters of awakening around the world, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in not just the Buddha, more like Zorba the Buddha, like both, somebody who can really celebrate being human, and let's have a good time, like Jamin. I love Jamin and his Zorbaness, but he's also got a lot of Buddha in him too. He's incredibly intelligent, so it's like, and I feel that way about everybody that I'm connecting with here, that everybody's got that alive, juicy, down-to-earthness, but also deep and and insightful, and having enough courage to want to show up in a space like this that's going to be published online, and really open up and be vulnerable, you know, and share your shadows and then share your gifts and struggle, you know, sometimes with trying to figure out what a siddha is and how to find it and what are you know, whatever, you know. But still, I mean, we're all open to it, and I hope tonight when we started, everybody at least got the sense that they were connecting with it, even if it, like I said, it wasn't creating fireworks or, you know, a light show inside you. That at least just trust the process, because then it will lead. Anytime you do that, essence takes over, and it will create a connection with you through time space somewhere. Maybe not, you know, probably when you least expect it, you know. So anyway, that's my shadow. It's like when I start to talk about it, I can't stay there long because I want to go into this stuff, you know, the fun stuff. But I also want it. But the reason I said all that is because to remind everybody that the shadows are part of human experience, and as long as you're in a body, your body is a shadow. So it's like you're always going to have a shadow until you leave this world. You know, there's no getting beyond the shadows. You know, we're not angels yet. I mean, and we're not going to be, because we're not angels, but we can be we can be as radical as angels, and at some point we will be. But that requires leaving this body, or if, in some cases, in deep Tibetan Vajrayana traditions, you can even turn it into a light body. But, you know, it takes 13 years of not having a negative thought in order to do that. So that's quite a challenging thing to do. If you think you can do that, go for it. And then when you leave this world, you'll turn into a light body. Oh boy. But anyway, so that's just how I want to open it. And just so when people also see this, being enlightened, being awakened is nothing special. It shouldn't be, because we all are. We just forgot we are. It's always there. Yes, it does take work, and the work is about reversing the conditioning that's happened. That's all the work there is that you got to do. So it all depends. However long it takes is however much conditioning you have to reverse. Because once you get back to that essence as a grown individual with a fully developed intellect and all those things, it's just going to go boom. It'll transform that personality into an individuality that can make a unique contribution to the whole. You know. And can be in touch with siddhas and all those kind of things, you know. And and it's okay, because the essence is safe. It got trapped under so much conditioning that it's just waiting for us to dig back in there and find it again, so we can start to re-enlighten ourselves. Because all children are enlightened, but they don't have a mind or an emotional center or a physical center that's yet capable enough of creatively expressing that in the world in a way that can benefit others. And maybe that's, you know, the story goes that maybe that's why we have to be conditioned to learn to develop all those inner centers, which is a good way of looking at it. But we also have to uncondition at a certain point. And then it's up to us if we want to use that conditioning as a tool to interact with others, to kind of tune into them and then slowly unravel the conditioning with them and be supportive with them in that way. But, it depends. Or you can just throw it all off and be very essential and be one of these great enlightened teachers who just sits on a pulpit, and because they can't even remember what it was like to be conditioned anymore, and when they look at everybody, they just immediately go right to what's going on, you know. So it just depends on how you want to do it. And it's not like you can really choose. It's like, for me, it was that I'm going to do the whole spectrum. I'm going to get into the shadows with everybody and into the siddhas with the Buddhas and everything in between. That's how it came about for me. It's not something I planned. But I also know that there's people who can just once they get it, they just stay in the essence and they don't want to come back. And those are usually the people who become really, you know, famous teachers, because they just like a Gangaji or a Muji or Eckhart Tolle or whoever, they're ripped, and they're always ripped. And by ripped, I mean in the siddhas all the time. And that's just where they are, because once they got done with conditioning, they were done with it. Me, I just think maybe it's a little more useful to, you know, put on the conditioning so you can, it just feels like people feel a little more comfortable with that sometimes. It's easier to reach a lot more people that way. From what I've seen in my life, I can reach people from all kinds of different places that a lot of these other teachers can't and won't, because most of the time they just get New Age leftovers that, you know, have been through the New Age, realize that was a bunch of whatever. Now they're meeting somebody real, and that's all they're into, because, you know, so it just depends on what you want. So that was a lot more than just my shadow, but I'm guessing it's all connected somehow, you know. So I invite anybody else who'd like to share their, and I said I was going to keep it short, but like I'm going to do that, right? Anyway, But anyway, I mean, you know, who else? I invite anybody else who feels like, I'm going to go on mute to respect anybody else who might want to come in and offer a shadow. And like I said, whoever wants to do or don't do it doesn't matter. And once we're done with that, we're going to go into some sacred geometry prayer wheels with the gifts. And we're going to learn how to work a little bit at a deeper level than just this one. So I'm
Yes. I have so much to say, but I was resisting. I'm like, I'm not going to be the first one to talk again after Dharmendra, but come on, guys. Nobody else. All right, you ready? Oh my goodness, just incredible. I just find that synchronicity is so powerfully at play here. On the bus ride to here, and then the whole experience today in the marketplace, like Dharmendra, exactly what you've been talking about was flowing through me, where I was saying, well, okay, so today we're going to work on the shadow and the gift and the siddha, but I just want to jump into the gift. You know? I was like, the gift was just so present, and the siddha rather than the shadow. I'm not saying that there isn't shadow, but it just was so obvious, or I don't know if that's the word, but there was this clarity about that, focusing on that aspect for me. And I also am finding that this experience for me as a reminder of time, like what is time? And I think I brought that up before, but like when you took us on that journey, for me, it was like super easy to get into it today. Like it just happened. I didn't even have to force it. And it was a flowing river. And today in the market, I lived what I visioned. So I was going, that's interesting. Like, did the market influence the vision? Or, you know, did I already know that I was going to live this moment beforehand? But there was just like this parallel dimensioning going on of the experience. And I was like, oh, that explains why I was drawn to that and that and that and that and that today. It's like they all comprise this realm that I entered so easily today, and then came back to earth so easily. And you know, this description you had of this circle globe, that's the earth was there, and the people circled, the people with their arms open, welcoming, like a tapestry. Though I don't know, it was really interesting because things were dimensional, but they were also flat. They had time, but they had no time. So there was just this whole experience of that was really powerful. And I just wanted to mention that because that's.
Let me ask you a question, because that's going into, you're weaving in and out of the gift and the siddha there, the way you're describing your environment and your experience of it. That's really cool stuff. That's almost like that's getting into voyaging, the sixth step. But what I want to ask you is, because we have a theme here, and until we get to the gift officially, which I didn't stay very good on either, I'll admit that. I mean, I started out in that shadow and it went all over the place. But what I wanted to ask you is, when you came back to earth with your gift, what was the shadow that you were taken into to share that gift? Share the shadow experience that you went into to share your gift.
Yeah. So okay. So what's coming to me is having faith that all will unfold and be in the right and perfect time. That there's a little bit of fear or doubt in me, which I've actually been talking to about this with Jamin. Like I'm like, go on this roller coaster. Like one day I'm like, wait, this is so much fun. And then I go down, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. And then I go back up, whoa, this is so much. So it's like this boing, boing is up and down between the shadow aspect and the light aspect of it. And being called to have faith in the unfolding of karma, I guess, or the unfolding of destiny. And that, yeah, that's, I guess that's the way I could answer that.
Well, let me clarify, because karma is stuff that's part of the going back through conditioning stuff. That's your karma.
Not karma, that's destiny.
Dharma is what you're here to do. It's a lot of other, there's 7 different meanings to the word dharma, but that's the meaning I'll use in this context in relation to karma. That's the stuff that's going to come out of essence and turn into individuality as you actualize it in the world through your center.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
And you could call that destiny for sure. But destiny is in relation to when you are an individuality. That's specifically when all of that's being cleared up and you can tap into your individuality. So destiny. So okay, good. So I definitely got the doubt and the fear. I really picked up that doubt thing for a moment there. And I'm glad you said it, because that's what I was picking up when you started to go there. Well, so that's good. Let's keep it at that. And anybody who's next, and hang in there for the gift. And let's anybody else who would like to open their shadow, because it's always worth it if you do. You'll get a lot more out of the next steps. Otherwise, the next steps will be a little flat if you don't open your shadow, because there's going to be no place for that to, just like we did in the exercise, there's going to be no place for the gift to pour into if you don't have a shadow for it to land in. Your shadow is just your earth. Your gift is your humanity, your siddha is your heaven, whatever you want to call it. You got 3 things: earth, humanity, and heaven. That's the work we do here in this kind of like middle range. Once you get beyond stop the world, get off the person, places, and events train, you step into heaven, earth, and humanity. That's what we're working here when we're doing this, just to give a different contextualization of it. Because I can give it, I like to do that every now and again, give it different views of it, so people from different backgrounds can relate to it. Because this is kind of like a central thread teaching, so it doesn't really matter where you come at it from. You just find the right terms, and then you can connect into it, because essence can go anywhere, can connect with anything. Okay, who would like to, and is there anybody who would like to open their shadow up?
Dharmendra, I would like to, and maybe you can help me with it. Would you be willing to do that?
I would if you request. Yes, I'll keep my mic on then.
Okay. Because honestly, when you first started sharing yours, I was right on it and I had it, and I've lost it. And I'm not seeming to connect with it.
Well,
With
right.
what it is in this moment. I know it's there.
Right. Well, let's go into the shadow that you're experiencing right now, which is
okay.
Which is confusion. You're confused. You don't know where one thing ended and the other began. So you're sort of in an in between, and you're kind of just floating in that space. Yeah, that's the thing about confusion. It kind of blocks your imaginative capacity, your creative imagination, because you don't have any you don't have any place to ground your vision when you're confused. So a lot of times, we think we have something and we lose it or whatever, but then whatever's coming up in the moment will always work too. That's why I'm just taking it right into where you're at right now,
Okay.
in the sense of, I'm, or you could also say you're feeling a bit lost with, or disconnected from what you were trying to get in touch with. There's a lot of different ones. Do you want me to put up the Siddha chart again, so you can, the Siddha gift shadow chart? Maybe one of those would spark you, or was that not, or did that not really make a difference to you? Okay. Just for a moment, if it helps you, let's just bring it up and just look at the shadows. Take a look over the shadows. Maybe one of those, and if it does, then go with it. And I'll remember the other 2 for later on, if everybody also.
Okay. When you first put this up, the Siddha that I was attracted to was truth.
Truth, yeah.
And the shadow is doubt. So.
Well, look where confusion is, right next door to doubt.
Yeah.
And it is literally, they're both in the head center, these 2. There's a body graph that has all these in it through 9 different centers, and both of these are in the head, which would normally, in the old system, called the crown, I guess you could say. But they're not chakras, they're centers. But anyway, so somewhere in there about then
Oh,
inquiry, truth. I don't know. Is something in
okay.
there ringing a bell as far as shadow? Is there some doubt or confusion about where something to do with the best way to share your gift in the world or something like that? Or are you already clear with that?
Uh, I could probably use more clarity around that. Yes. You know, on one hand, I love it, and there's always a feeling that I need to be doing more, and you know, that thing. So,
Uh-uh.
you know, and as I strive to do more,
Uh-huh.
am I doing the right things or taking myself farther away from what I'm really supposed to be doing? So yes, that's a
Huh.
question that hangs with me.
Right. Huh. So
Yes.
there's doubt about whether that's really the 100% it for you, and there's confusion as to what might make it even more 100% for you, so you don't have to keep having this nagging thought, should I do more? Something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's more of a uh like there is a like the heart of what I do that is absolute love and would just like to just stay there all the time. And then there's like, well, in order to really feed this and, you know, have the clients and things that come in to be able to sit here and you know, um, financially support myself and my business, I got to do these other things too. And then, you know, I question, that's the
Di-
part I question all the other stuff.
Just the way you expressed that, you pulled your head right down into your heart. That's how you started it. So there's concerns. There's concerns about what you love and how to support it and how to
Yeah.
make it flow and circulate so that it takes care of all of you. It's
Yes.
all in your
Yes.
hands.
That
I just watch
exactly.
your, yeah, I
You
just watch
said
your
that so
hands.
well.
Well, because I watch your hands, you're telling the story with your hands. Because those are all Taoist energy circulation meridian meditations. Everything you just did. So,
Awesome.
well, this one's more of a Buddhist mudra thing. But anyway, so you were perfectly just no one. Now I know where they got all that stuff from. Women describing their experience.
Women with Italian. Yes.
Well, that's good. No, that's enough. That's enough for the shadow right now, and that'd be some good stuff that you can open up your inquiry into your imagination with. Well, you can use two. You can use two. Like you had both doubt and confusion, and they're right next to each other. So, you know, left brain, right brain. Doubt is the left brain, right side of the body, and confusion is right brain, left side of the body.
Okay.
Those halves of the brain. That's literally what those are. Those two. So you can work with both of those, and you can open those up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Who would like to venture into the valley of the shadow of death? No, I hope not, but it could be. You never know.
I don't know. I was reading the list, and one that came popping out was this sort of unresolved, but also uncertainty. I think it was something like uncertainty. Thank you. Unease. That was the one. Unease, and the current situation, I think, globally for me is of a lot of unease. So it doesn't allow me to do the work I know I'm capable of doing, because I think it connects with everything we've all been talking about. And again, that collective feeling of doubt and fear and this movement is from what I hear and what I see, both here in Mexico, in Europe, in the US. I have the opportunity to travel and exchange with a lot of people. And I feel like that's a global, general vibe. A lot of confusion, a lot of doubt, a lot of exhaustion, burnout, disconnect. And one of the things that has been helpful for me with that shadow, or with those shadows, is this sort of letting go and getting back to the source like we started out with, which, if I don't know if I'm supposed to share it, but what popped out the Siddha for me was beauty, and it was going back, and you actually mentioned beauty, and but like the essence of beauty, not the physical beauty, but like the beauty of the world, the beauty of humanity, the beauty of nature, and that giving that hope back to and strength to move forward in beauty and be in that plane.
Yeah, and it's okay to share the siddha or the gift, because we're in the shadow space, so you're kind of doing it from the shadow space. So as long as you do it like you just did, that's fine. We're not yet to the gift, because the gift has a totally different energy than what you just did with mentioning the gift in the siddha, as if there would be nice places to get back to from the unease and the discord and all the things that are occurring in the world right now. So yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, you really can't do anything wrong here. It's you just can't. Thank you. That was really it's always nice to hear somebody new who I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And feel your essence come into the space, because it's in all three. It's in the shadows. Even though the siddha officially is the essence, it's still in all three. It's just in the shadow. It's covered up with a lot more conditioning. That's all.
Yeah. There's this sort of like treading in mud feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah.
That's a very good description of inertia.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Very strange.
Thank you.
I can certainly relate to doubt and confusion. Last week I talked with, was it last week? Do we have one last week? Yeah, we met last week. Been feeling very scattered and disorganized, and on a personal level, but also trying to hold that with what's going on a global scale. I've just found that I can only do so much of that. It's almost like, how do I describe this? Feels like, I don't know how else to say it besides forgetting where I am, and like I'll get so in my head that like I won't pay attention to I need to eat or something like that, or I'll stay up super late because I'm just kind of on this, riding this like thought train. And sometimes that ends up being really productive. I have super productive like midnight stretches, but the flip side of that spontaneity and the kind of brilliance that comes out of that from me in spurts is that structure and it's like you need the structure to be spontaneous inside of, and I've been lacking that structure recently. And so the doubt and confusion has really crept in out of that. I think that's about all I had to say.
Cool. Thank you, Nolan. That was a good contribution.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Nolan. I've definitely experienced some of the same feelings recently, and I think I would describe what I'm experiencing more as turbulence. Um, in multiple aspects of my life right now. In particular, recently coming to the conclusion with my partner Suzanne that we need to take a a, a pledge. We're going to take this thing called the Liberation Pledge. That kind of draws a line that I always knew was there. In fact, I was introduced to the idea by a guy named Gary Yourofsky a few years ago, and thought, oh, that's really interesting. He has chosen not to sit at any tables where animal products are being served, so as to not say that that act is okay. And you know, I was vegan at the time, but had and found it really interesting, but couldn't imagine doing it at that time, nor could I imagine even thinking through or, or thinking through what it would take to get to that place myself. And thanks to Vegan World 2026 and all these meetings we've been having and this accelerated collective evolution, feel like I have recently gotten to the point where, okay, this is something I can wrap my head around, and feel that it's almost, not only was it inevitable, but necessary. And over the holidays, we talked to our families about it, and now we're kind of talking to our friends, and it's just been almost like leaving home again, in a way where there's a level of disconnection and the need to take a step back and re-examine how these relationships will work in a healthy way where I don't have to commit to acts of violence on a day-to-day basis or condone it. And I don't want to go into specifics, but it has definitely. I'm in that stomach area of this chart here. I know that, like, in terms of exhaustion, provocation, struggle, turbulence, I can feel it in my gut, and I have moments of clarity where I know, and I just follow those moments as long as I can, and eventually settle there. But the only metaphor that comes to mind right now is that my boat is rocking hard. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I can really see, and when you did the turbulence thing is, and then finding your humanity, and because there's this compassion welling up in you you want to just, I mean, it's really clear with you, the compassion thing. I mean, the Siddha comes through also somehow, and just because you have to embody the Siddha. It's not something that, it's like, have to live it. You have to be it. And I just see that you're just a little reflection, even back, into the shadow of turbulence and the boat rocking. We'll get into that a little more when we open up from the, because I'll have some fun things to do when we open up from the shadow to the gift when we start that one. There's just Jamin left if he feels like anything he wants to put out.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everybody. So I kind of feel some degree of confusion, and some of my shadow sides that we've talked about before, around drug and alcohol use, which I feel like I've made huge strides in getting out of my life. Still have ground to cover, but really feel great about what I've accomplished. And then also another shadow side is kind of, I don't know if you'd call it control or ego, or kind of like, feeling like I have to kind of control things, or if I don't do it, it won't get done, kind of thing. And so I'm actively letting go of that and just really embracing the big us, the big we. And then that gets towards, for me, the gift is unity. And I'm really embracing unity, and all of us coming together and just doing this and just being a stand for that. Anyway, feel free to bounce back at me, Dharmendra, or anyone. You all know me here. Anyway.
I think sorry, I just want to say I think it's really beautiful to hear that. Awesome.
I thought that was pretty well said and pretty self-explanatory. So, I mean, I think everybody can relate to what you're saying too, on some level or other, in some facet of their life. Yours just happens to be center stage about a big intention that we have with humanity right now to change the course of its self-destructive behavior. So yeah, that does have a little bit of weightedness to it in terms of the delicate balance between controlling just enough and at the same time just letting be the author of yourself, and also remembering what that's about. That's not about controlling others. That's about being authoritatively you. And sometimes what that means is also giving others space and trusting, and that's quite a challenge. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you just to remember where you are in the whole thing.
I just wanted to add as well that there is this thing of being in the world and enjoying it, smelling the flowers and appreciating all of life around us, even in the face of all that we face. That if we don't do that, we miss that. And we came here also for that.
Well, it's what keeps us sane too.
Yes.
You lose your sanity if you get out of touch with the beauty of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say one thing that Amira put up, because I'm reading the chat, and it's the pledge that is being referred to by Benjamin. 1, publicly refuse to eat animals, live vegan. 2, publicly refuse to sit where animals are being eaten. 3, encourage others to take the pledge, www.liberationpledge.com. So I think that's important at this moment, because this is about the vegan thing. And so much, I just recently, or today actually, finished all 7 videos of the webinar that Sailesh puts up for climate healers. And I'm just doing it. I don't know if I'll get certified. I don't care about it. I might not, but it's just amazing how much he ties the veganism into the solution to the planet. It is the #1 solution, bar none. Because without it, it doesn't matter what the solution you use, they won't work without that one solution. because that's the only one that's going to take us out of the mess we're in. So it's really nice, and so much of what I really didn't have that much awareness of what until I went through these 7 videos, and it kind of encapsulated the whole vision that Sailesh is working on. And I just thought, my God, I'm just in so the same place this guy is with everything he puts out about all of that. You know, my way of expressing it is unique. My focus is unique. His focus is unique. But everything he puts out in general about the whole scope is just like, well, yeah, no kidding. It's exactly what's going down. and so that was just something nice to see recently. So, and on that note, if anybody else has anything left they might want to share on the shadow, go ahead. Otherwise, with a thumbs up, we're going to shift into, with that from everybody, we're going to shift into the gift sequence. So I'll start with the inertia thing I started with. The sequence there is determination and then invincibility, and it's all about for me what I'm getting out of inertia is it's like, and with all the shadows, they're almost like this earthen pot around that's hardened around this golden image that's a perfect image of you, but it's covered in this clay pot that's just kind of misshapen and not really descriptive of anything, that's just kind of somehow found itself around this beauty that you are. But it serves a purpose because it cooks and allows that golden image to mature. So what I'm seeing is that I spent a heck of a lot of years in this kind of a inertia, in the sense of putting it out into the world, who I am and what I have to say. I had to work through a lot of issues of having to do with past people doing that and how the world treated them. Notably people like Christ and the cross, and you know, people that really put out the truth, they tended to get treated very, you know, yikes. But but I don't know, I guess I wasn't going for that old version where you're in pure essence, and that's just going to shock the hell out of people, and sooner or later somebody's going to grab you and do something to you that's not very nice, because it's just too you know, revealed. The world's not ready for that, especially not the powers that be and all the strange people that work for them. So I see now why the you know, the task has been to be somebody who can kind of be user friendly to anybody from anywhere, and at the same time also be able to dance the dance of the Buddhas, you know. So I'm seeing this inertia. It created this. Now that it's starting to come out of me, I'm just absolutely determined to get the point across that accelerated collective evolution is kind of like the core engine of whatever it is we need to empower ourselves to make these changes in the world that are so desperately needed right now. And I've been saying it since the beginning, even in meetings with Jamin on radish.org, where the focus wasn't necessarily on this thing particularly, but it's impossible not to express the truth when that area where the truth is being distorted a little bit is being presented, and it's hard not to come in and say, wait a minute, if you just adjust that a little bit and look at it from over here, you might see that distortion is actually a way of looking at the truth that isn't quite coming from your center and your wholeness. It's kind of coming from a mental attitude or an emotional affliction, or, you know, it's just funny a lot of times how people might want to express what they see. And what I see that's just the biggest thing lacking in the world is people not coming from their center and their essence. And maybe up to now in the evolution of mankind, that wasn't really an option for everybody on the planet. But I think a pretty good chunk of people right now can do this and start to move into it, and come from a place that, like Sailesh was saying, where you don't care anymore what the governments are going to do or all that stuff, or whether they agree with it or not. We just got to do what we got to do. And when enough people are doing it, the governments aren't going to have any choice. They're just going to go, well, we either better, you know, publicly claim this, or we're not going to have a platform to do anything. because nobody's interested in what we're doing anymore. It's you know, so that's just the determination I feel now, is that kind of determination, you know. And for me, it's very specific. It's about accelerated collective evolution, because that is the essence, is like the rocket fuel. I mean, that's gonna, whatever spaceships we build to get where we need to go, planet peaceful and compassionate of vegans, you know, we need a certain fuel, and that's called essence to get there. There's no other way we're going to get there. It's just not possible, because we can keep coming, because the way we've done it up to now with our mind and trying to figure it out with our minds, and that's the mess we're in, you know. And we haven't trusted our hearts, and so much of what women are about is much more about, you know, and it has to do a lot with bearing children and raising children and caring so much for everything. It's just built into the very nature of what they bring into the world, and what they're confronted with as in being human, that they have to face those kind of things, and they're there. And I mean, who else is going to do it, you know? I mean, and so it opens the heart, and the heart is so much more compassionate and naturally connected, and much closer to the belly, which is the earth. It's so much more connected to what needs to happen, you know. And essence is that place, that is the belly, that is the source, that is the, even women have to take a little jump from there too, but it's a lot closer than the mind and men, and being lost in the mental and the competition, and let's accumulate, and let's create a world of false scarcity and all this baloney that isn't really happening. And so we can manipulate and control and put it all in the hands of the super rich, and push our agendas of what our mind thinks is the best thing to do, which is creating all the suffering on the planet. Ridiculous. You know. So yeah, so that's kind of, usually my gifts are a little bit more playful and fun, but this one is very, determination is very solid and very like a solid thing. So I guess that's my opening tonight into the gifts. And I got the hit now, and as everybody can notice, it's a little, I mean, I feel everybody's heart now. So this is the thing I want to remind everybody of. We've just moved out of the head, which is a shadow. And I don't usually say it until we get out of it, because if I say it when we're in it, then it kind of ruins the whole effect. Because, you know, but once you're out of it, you go, yeah, that was our head. That's our shadow. That's where we get lost and confused and doubtful, and in inertia and turbulence, and all these things we get into with our heads, and how it screws up and messes with our body and creates these emotions that are, you know, all uncomfortable and everything and dissatisfying. But in the heart, it's different. It's like we're starting to get on the same page, and we can all, you know, go, yeah, right on, you know. I mean, and so that's the shift. It's the emerging. I hope I kind of role modeled what it's like to literally emerge out of this earthen vessel of constricted inertia into the light of day of this determined energy that is not going to stop until the point is made, and people are starting to adopt it as the central practice in whatever else they're doing, accelerated collective evolution, which boils down to coming from your center, which is what essence is about, and developing an individuality, not a false personality of masks, an individuality that has creative potential and is infinitely open-ended, and doesn't get stuck anywhere in anything, and just reflects what's needed in the moment as a unique expression of, you know, creativity. Boom. Okay. Determination, the gift I'm sharing and offering tonight to the table.
Okay, well, just keep following Dharmendra then. Grace is my gift that I want to share with you all tonight. And my vision on the journey was so beautiful. We were all flowers, like on my bracelet. We were all these flowers, and we were flowing together like this river of flowers. And all of a sudden there were these hummingbirds that appeared, and they were drinking from our nectar. Or maybe we were the hummingbirds and we were drinking from the nectar of the flowers. So it doesn't really matter. And and the gift is the grace that brings inspiration to nurture each flower of yourselves, to allow spirit to drink your nectar so that nectar will flow out into the world and grace the world with your beauty, your wisdom, your creativity, your imaginations. That's where I am at.
Yeah, a poetic journey with paint words that serve as paintings. Yeah, you're really good at that. That's another part of sharing the gifts, is you can also make compliments like that. They're not really compliments, they're just accurate descriptions of what's being, from a certain perspective. It's not like the ultimate truth or anything, but from one perspective, it's a way of reflecting back to the source. That's also part of, we help build each other through the gifts too. I think, Jamin, you were about to go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to share a bit about the gift that I'm really present to, which is unity. I'll just give a little example. There's about 1 million different nonprofits in the world with total combined membership of something like 1 billion people. And, each of these million nonprofits is kind of working on their own little thing or big thing. But one of the points I want to make is that none of them are looking out for the whole. Well, none of them except for us. And the dogs certainly agree. And so what we're starting to do is reach out systematically to these different nonprofits. Like last night, I emailed ICE 9/11 that has arguably the most urgent single solution, which is protecting all the world's ice, which is rapidly melting. And I made the point to them, I quoted this sign that Melissa and I had seen a picture of in Costa Rica. It says, "The single greatest threat to life on Earth is the belief that someone else will fix it." And so my point to ICE 9/11, hey, you're working on this super awesome solution, but if we just focused on that, we would be participating in this single greatest threat to life on Earth by saying, we're just going to do our part. Somebody else will take care of all the rest of it. And then my point to them is, let's join together and form a nucleus that we can build and build and build and build of a whole bunch of people and organizations who are all committed to the whole and to the use of this very medium of radical collective intelligence that we're pioneering right here, right now, by having this video conference, recording it, transcribing it, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, this is unity. Let's come together in conversation and with this shared intention of saving as much of life on Earth as we can and radically transforming all of life on Earth. If we just start there and more people fall in and we stay committed to that, and we have more and more of these channels, for lack of a better word, this one being the meditation one. We also have vegan collective intelligence. We have SRM. We have so many others that need to get started. And then let it snowball, right? And so snowball into unity. What's the snowball doing when it snowballs? It's collecting more and more snow into one big thing. And that's what I'm committed to.
So just a little reflection on that. The unity is actually a siddha, but orientation, having the right orientation, the gift that opens up unity. So what I get is that, and what it totally gave me an insight into is about each of us, and maybe why we are coming together in this way is we each. Remember what I talked about? I think it was when you were doing your super intelligence thing a couple weeks ago, and there was this thing about the main lines that are going to hold that up, and there may only be a handful of them. And I just got this sense that possibly because of the consistency of the people that are showing up, and there's always new people, but there's a consistency of certain people showing up to this particular meeting. And my point of determination of a central thread that is like runs through all the narratives, that's going to empower all of it. But I think each one of us has something like that is another central thread, major facet of this whole unity thing that needs to come together. Because anytime you see a mandala, it's basically, it has maybe 8 divisions, and then all of a sudden there's like, within those 8, there's 8 more, and it it fractals down. Well, I'm talking about the first fractal of this unity, that particular aspect where the main parts are. And I'm just getting this sense that maybe that's why we're coming together the way we are, because obviously we need to build something that at the almost ultra meta level, unity is the ultra meta level, but what's making up that unity? What are the spokes or the facets of the wheel that are doing that? I think one of them is this accelerated collective evolution, radical collective intelligence, whatever it is that each one of us is bringing. That's the insight I got when you were sharing what you were saying, Jamin. That is because I know that I have to have an intercommunication between you and I too, which we have, but it's starting to feel like it's starting to become more substantial, that we can start to define it and get it becoming more tangible, so it can become more user-friendly in the everyday world. So I think that's really an important thing that you're saying in what you're saying, is how do we orient this thing called unity in the world? How do we orient it? And what is our orientation, our unique orientation, each one of us, in that unity? Because it's only the unity that's going to be able, that's another thing, that's one of those things we have to have. If we don't have that, just as important as accelerated collective evolution essence, it's not going to work. We have to have that unity too. That's another major central facet of the whole thing we're bringing together here. So that's just got this hit when you said all that. So I think very important.
If I may add, the other thing is awakening in people this knowledge that they hold gifts that can contribute to the unity, that we all have gifts or a gift to contribute. Because I don't think everyone knows that. I mean, we might be conscious of it in this group, but I don't think most people think that way or even aware of this. They go through education and conditioning, and so they kind of think that's a gift, but they don't get that we're born with these beautiful gifts that we're awakening up to use.
Yeah, and the flip side of the greatest threat to life on Earth being the belief that someone else will fix it, is the greatest threat to life on Earth is us not coming to the giant and growing vegan roundtable to contribute our gifts, to contribute our threads, right?
Beautiful, Jim. Thank you.
I hope that maybe my gift can help you all, like your gifts have helped me so far. I feel like my gift tonight is perseverance. I just have felt like I've been having difficult conversation after difficult conversation, and it's been exhausting and has raised doubts, and I'm stepping back into my shadow, but this perseverance has been, it's been illuminating for me in terms of finding my clarity. What I keep coming back to over and over again is what's leading me forward. And I don't really know how to put it any other way right now.
that, I mean, sometimes not a whole lot of words are needed. And I've noticed with you, you have a good ability to hit the nail on the head in as short a time as possible. It might just be part of your makeup, but I never have a problem with, everything you say is like, and even when you said you thought you were going into your shadow, which you weren't, because part of perseverance is it's a rough trek. Even the gift is, it's like a warrior. That's so even the gift of a warrior is still kind of, it's going to be short, sweet, to the point. Well, not necessarily sweet either, but you know what I mean? But it's still the gift. It's still a gift because it shows that indomitable spirit of a human being who, has got a clue about something. That you just, it doesn't matter how difficult it is. The strength is going to be there. The strength will be there. It will power you through all the difficulties. So absolutely. So yeah, you say a lot in not saying so what you isn't so much, it seems like, but it is.
Thanks. That was very helpful to hear you say that too. And thank you.
Benjamin, I also want to say that whenever I hear you speaking about your perseverance and the way you are being vegan, it always helps me to pursue becoming vegan. And so I thank you for that.
Thanks, Melissa.
Does anybody else want to share their gift before we move? Because like I said, there's never any pressure and you don't have to always, oh, Deborah. Okay.
Yeah, just in looking at the chart, the gift associated with the doubting confusion is inquiry and imagination, which I absolutely love. And it's a lot in the way that I work with people. And it's, and it's also, and just thinking of what Melissa was sharing initially in her first share when she was talking about, being in the, in the highs and the lows and the hope, and then in the, I don't know if you called it hope and despair. That's how I'm relating to it in this moment. And, I think I go back and forth between the feeling of, well, this is like what we're heading into as a collective and as a, what's happening on the planet is aligning to what so many of the revelations have said is going to be unfolding in our, end times, quote unquote, end times, and our, time of major transition. And so it's like, well, do we just roll with it and let it play out and do everything that we can in the process to be on the side of light and compassion and love and unity, or do we or are we really going to be able to change the outcome? And and I do believe that, yeah, it's dang possible, that we really can change the course of what is unfolding by our efforts and by the work that we're doing. And even if by some chance we can't, I wouldn't change what I want to be doing and how I want to be contributing in and what I want to be doing and being and expressing on the planet at this time. And so I guess it just brings back to that. It brings back to hope, actually. And being in the, I guess, the inquiry and the imagination of what creation, how creation comes into being and into manifest and evolves is I don't want to say just fun. It's fun, and it's enjoyable, and I like it. So,
That was
that's all
really
I
good.
have to say.
Yeah, that was really good. That was also bordering a bit into the siddha because I was getting a little intoxicated. That's a siddha. It's about when somebody really recounts something really well. That's what specifically intoxication in the gene key sense is. It's a story that just wraps you up so much in its grand vision and beauty that you get a little intoxicated. That's good. It's good to start touching into that because that's where we're going next. So yeah, well done. Thank you for your gift. Your gifts.
There is a phrase that came to me, Deborah, when you were talking that is, as above, so below.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to share a gift? Their gift. There's no pressure. If you're in the energy of it, that's enough. I mean, it's not like you have to always share it. I mean, if you're in touch and feeling that, that's all that we need. Because I don't want to. So I'll give it another, half a minute or so, and then I'll ask if we want to go to the siddha stage, and then we'll do thumbs up. Otherwise, if anybody else wants to share their gift, go right ahead. Okay. So is everybody good with going to the siddha, the third step? Thumbs up everywhere? Cool. Okay. So a couple things I'll say just by way of introduction, and then I'll do my siddha, and then whoever in the usual order, or unusual order too, could be. You never know. And also, even if you didn't say anything about a gift, if you get a hit in the siddha to say something, even though you didn't say anything in the gift, you're allowed to. It doesn't matter. There's no rule. There's no right or wrong. So the thing about the siddha is, since we're all now connected in the heart and feeling that sense of shared purpose, now when we move into the siddha, the idea is to hit the center point, the center note, the essence on the head, if you like, with your siddha and how you express it, so that it elicits a sense of, and I'll use the word unity because that is the word closest to the source of all the siddhas. Doesn't mean it's better or worse than any of the siddhas. It's just nearest to the source, because that's what the source does to you. The nearer you get to it, it's unity. Yeah, and it's just about being in touch with your being, your center, your hara, your tantien, whatever you want to call it, your divine core, and coming from that place about it. And it's the sense that we're all at one with that. And so we've created now, I said we were going to do a sacred geometry, so we've already done that. Each person sharing their gift or just radiating their gift, which I saw a couple of people do who didn't necessarily say anything verbally. I definitely saw a radiation of gift from their presence. That was kind of obvious. So that's why I just said, let's just move on. But so we are a sacred geometry now because all our hearts are resonating with the sharing of the gift. The vibration we put through our heart in sharing our gift, it creates a certain resonance in our heart, and we're all like in a ring of, like sacred jewels in a circle, in a prayer wheel, where we're incanting our desire to benefit others, because it's always about sharing the gift. So when we step into the Siddha now, we literally become like a kind of creature that's multidimensional, each facet of which is one of us expressing a Siddha. And if you can open to that and just trust that the perceptions and experiences and manifestations that you can have while we're doing this last phase can be rather interesting, and I say that rather lightly. They can be really intriguing and fascinating, especially in the imaginative inquiry sense. So with that being said, I'll dive into the sequence that just came up for me tonight, and the third step into that is invincibility. So this takes on a narrative of my whole life. So I'm tuning into a creature whose breath is my whole life. So that's the kind of present moment I'm opening in this Siddha, and that relates to things I said earlier about all the skills of accelerated collective evolution and other ideas. And it's okay, because the deeper parts of us understand, and those of you who are listening, the deeper parts of you understand what's being alluded to here. But my whole life, from a certain age, when I was 13, and I had a thought come up in my mind, I'm going to die someday, so what does all this mean to me? I don't really think everything around me, and being, a popular guy on the basketball team, and having the attention of a couple of really, cute fellow junior high school girls, and et cetera, et cetera. But all that fell flat in the face of this, I'm going to die someday, what am I going to do about it? And so that was the driving force in my life, and it's become this invincible desire in me to discover the truth about what it is to be human on this planet and why I'm here. And there was something that arose in me that's only grown stronger over the years to find it. And after learning about what it means to find it and the benefit it has and the necessity to share it with others, simply because that's not something you'd want to keep to yourself, because you realize when you're benefiting so greatly by something, how could it not benefit anybody else? And so that was part of the invincibleness, but the center of the invincibleness was this deep, deep, deep trust in existence that whatever it is that was going to come up in my life and reveal to myself was something worth pursuing. And so something inside of me, like a citadel, like this unassailable piece of architecture that is kind of an attribution of something from another dimension that comes into this dimension for the very purpose of learning about this dimension in order to bring something through from that other dimension that can benefit this dimension, if that makes a whole lot of sense. But it's in a very citadel-like way, like it's like a rock of Gibraltar. It's this sense of just always wanting to awaken to more and more and more, to awaken to more and more and more. This path of awakening, this path of the Buddhas, this path of, and in this whole mess of humanity, this whole sea of suffering, there's something shining there that's been so beautiful to me ever since I was very young and read the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu at 14. And just reading it took me on this emotional, energetic awareness journey of imagination that was just mind-blowing. To be introduced to such concepts and ideas at such a level at 14 years old, it just, I don't know, it changed my whole life. It changed the whole course of my life. I think that was the note that made the whole pursuit of awakening invincible in me, and imperturbable and unstoppable. And if anything, in this siddha, what I'm getting out of it is, it's not, some siddhas are very spectacular and they bring you into very, groovy feeling states like ecstasy or whatever, or rapture or whatever. This one, I get the sense of just a a pure, substantial, solid immovableness, which is, I guess, is also a siddha, because it feels very peaceful. Feels like it has an essential peacefulness to it. Yeah. So that's how I would like to open up my facet of this higher intelligence we're now slowly going to attract by each one of us sharing their unique siddha this evening. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You see, when you start to do it, it just takes you anyway. So all I would suggest is just start with something, the siddha, whatever is in the chart, if that helps, like I've been doing tonight. And but after a while, you'll find it just takes you. So. Actually, I'd like to go a different, slightly different, because normally I just let it be open, whoever wants to go next. But I'm going to request. I'm going to make a request of somebody to open their siddha, because I get the sense that there's something there that could really be unveiled here, and that's you, Nolan. If you have any sense of wanting to open up your siddha, I would highly support it now.
I don't know what words to put it into that are, I'm not super familiar with the chart.
Would it be useful if I put it up again, or no?
I can just talk about it.
Okay.
What you had to say about your early childhood experience, you're in 14, reading that, that really hit home for me. And I'm not sure what the progression is here, but the shadow of this progression seems to be a kind of isolation and being away from the crowd in the same way as 14-year-old Dharmendra, and somehow this becoming an incredible strength and coming back into the world to grace crowds and inspire them to read such books. And I guess I still don't fully understand exactly how to discriminate like gifts and siddhas. Seem very tied in my mind right now. But I think for me, the kind of ironic twist in my whole trajectory is going from this social isolation, just completely unable to talk to people and really express like what's going on in my mind and in my heart, is now translating into this beautiful opportunity to connect with all these people I am now, and who knows how many other people in the future. And yeah, when you spoke, Dharmendra, I got that same goosebump feeling I was talking about last week, of just like that wave that's still kind of, it's still there, and I don't totally know what to do about that. But I'm very grateful to be here with you guys today, and have to apologize for being a little bit distracted. Had a friend come in and out, and I've had people trying to get a hold of me. Yeah, I don't really know where I'm going from here, but
You hit something there though that I wanted, and so my intuition was, thank God it was working, because it's that thing about the wave and the goosebumps. That's how you know you're in siddha space. So that's really, and I got two things from what you said, two siddhas from what you said. One is innocence, definitely, and the other is rapture. And you have a quality of bringing people into rapture with the way you speak. You do something with the cadence, and even it doesn't really matter what you're talking about. You people go into a kind of enrapturement with the way you express yourself. So I knew you would just do it. That's a siddha. You embody it. You embody it. It's not like you can describe it. You're trying to describe something that's indescribable anyway. So beautiful job. Well done. Good. So. And thank you for taking the courage to do that, because I definitely put you on a hot seat there for that one. But I knew you would do it. I knew you couldn't help but doing it. Beautiful.
Kind of going off the fuzzies, the goosebump feeling. Melissa, you inspired that in me with your comment. And I was able to just kind of sit in the siddha while that was happening. It felt like it kind of just created itself in that moment. And I am so grateful for you for saying that, because a lot of the time it feels like it's difficult to express, and it's something that I feel like is a lifelong journey for me, is expressing myself in a way that can be understood or is even influential in some regard. And to hear you say that meant a lot to me.
Just a little reflection that for the probably more for the benefit of the people who might watch this later after this has taken place. But at a certain point there, Benjamin, you literally brought the light right down into your center. It was just so clear. Something even happened in your video there that I wouldn't say I was just imagining. It was just so obvious, wasn't it, Melissa? He brought your hands down, and literally something lit up down there with your belly. So light is also a siddha.
Yeah.
And
I saw an aura around Benjamin just now, like just light around you.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I also want to just remind everybody, these are different facets of a higher intelligence. We are literally lighting up each facet of it right now as we do this. So it's good to also keep a global remembrance of what we're doing right now, as we're taking a sacred geometry prayer wheel and we're accelerating the reality of it so that it stacks into a higher dimensional being, I guess you could call it, which is what it is actually, so that we open a bigger present moment in which we can all partake and nourish our consciousnesses and grow our consciousnesses a little bit, accelerate our consciousnesses. This is the actual accelerated collective evolution step.
And I want to emphasize the collective part of it, because one common thread that's emerging here is each of us is kind of, expressing our own, for lack of a better word, self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, little old me, I'm so bundled up and confused and all this. And yet you hear Benjamin talk, you hear Nolan talk, I hear myself talk, and all of us see things in each of us that we don't see in ourselves. And that's kind of the point. I mean, take a spoke of a bicycle wheel by itself, not particularly useful, right? But put it all together and wow, we have this amazing machine called a bicycle. So that's really the point, is we all come together and it's just absolutely magical. I look at everyone here joining in the collective intelligence, and it's so much more powerful, has so much more promise, and really gets me much more fired up than I was before I met you all, right? And so just come together is the message, and keep coming together. Keep developing that persistence, Benjamin. Keep showing up no matter what. And the same for all of us. That's really the magic. That's the mandala.
That was a really, really, I couldn't have said that better myself, but I'm no better than you are, so it doesn't really matter. I have to bust myself once in a while because nobody's any specialer than anybody else here, and I have to watch that. But that's such a good point, Jamin. It is so true. The thing is that at the same time that we might be creating a higher dimensional configuration of intelligence, we're also lighting each other up at the same time. Especially in this phase, it's like everybody that lights up, it's everybody's. It's not just the person who's saying it. Everybody gets to have that piece. Everybody because the siddha is, each person is opening an aspect of essence, and they're gifting it to everybody in the space in such a way that it becomes a permanent part of each of our essences too. That's the beauty of this third phase. And I don't even know ultimately where all that's going to lead in the determined focus we have with the world and what we want to offer to it. But it will have a profound effect, because it's the thing that's lacking in the world right now, that interconnectedness that we're all getting to experience right now.
I keep hearing, I've been traveling in and out of the West for a while now. Something that called to me. It's not something I looked for at all, except for one point in my life 10 years ago now, where I decided to move and get out of the city and go back into nature and live very basically. I find that some of the points we're bringing up are things that really happen in the West, and that when you go out of the West and you go to humbler parts of the world, people are still very connected and they're doing the work actively. So it's really inspiring. It really brings you back to that source of this feeling of something that maybe you never learned, that you never received in your own education as a child, because we mentioned a lot about these first conditionings, these even in our genes, in our genetic code, it's been mentioned, women and men, this whole situation that we find ourselves in as human species, disconnected to the animal world and nature. One thing that I've learned being here in Mexico is when an animal is killed, it's done in a certain way, and every single part almost of the animal is eaten. The eyes, the skin, everything. It's an honorable way of sacrifice. For me, personally, it's something that really opened my mind and my heart to the various ways of going about how one goes about in this life. I look at Siddhartha, I look at many different teachers. I read Siddhartha when I was about 14, and that changed my life completely at that moment. The journey of being a prince and then becoming a pauper, and then becoming a hermit and reaching enlightenment, that whole process for me again is when you shed the excess, you get back to the source and you get back to family, and you realize you can't do it on your own, and you realize that everything you do has an impact. You know, every step you take, every word you speak, every thought you have, all of those things connect. And what resonates a lot for me right now is that everybody's been feeling this way of realization that they're not on their own, that they are connected, that we're in this together, and also that what we think we know is maybe not the truth. And what we live, our personal experience, isn't the experience of all of us, you know, exactly identically the same. So just to remember that we're constantly learning, and like we said, to be open and flexible. And I think that's the gift that I was looking for, and the word flexible came out because I've been learning here to be flexible. I've been learning here to re-question what I thought I knew, and to not speak as if I know already. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to grow. And so my flexibility allows people to grow around me, and for them to learn from me and to teach what they need to teach. So it kind of gives a space for everybody to sort of find their place and their way together. So
That was hitting the ball out of the park.
yeah, sure was. Wow, Alice.
It's also the Siddha of Sacrifice, which has, it's kind of an interesting one, that one. That's going to be ending the old way of what you described there for a second, of the so-called honorable way. But that's going to be ending soon. It's not even going to be in the human genetic disposition to do that ever again. It's going to be ending, because it is, as honorable as it may have been, and the what the priests did with it to make a necessary thing at the time, way back when, as honorable as they could conceive of what honor was and what they had to do to survive, is understandable. But in the modern day world, obviously, new learning has to happen. We have to sacrifice that old way of honor for a new way of honor that honors everything and is truly the interconnectedness of everything. So definitely the sacrifice is beautiful, and it's also going through its own evolution through all of us.
I just want to mention, sorry to interject, when you say I really like this old and new way, because it's another thing that's really present here, is there's this sense of rebirth, but there's also a sense of keeping the old, the sacred, and transmitting it, which is something I think we've lost in the West, where it's like there's a knowledge at a very young age, a resourcefulness and a consciousness that I find really interesting. And recently something came to me where it was like the last grandfathers and grandmothers, you know, not knowing where the world is going and wanting to speak and converse with them and hear their stories, knowing that they might be the last grandparents of this stage, right? And to really share with them that knowledge, that with all generations, you know, together combined. So it's like certain things need to go and certain things need to stay, and they really function. Sorry. But yeah.
Wow, this is quite a configuration we are building. Oh, there's Evan. Evan, we're deep in the Siddha. So, and we're actually almost done too. But if you can get the thread and jump in, you're always welcome. There's no rule, you know. Um, and and I'm terrible at names, so I forgot your name, but you're Melissa's daughter, and I thought that was really beautiful and incredibly insightful and deep and profound and wise what you said. Thank you.
Her name is Alice.
Oh, I may never have heard it, or if I did, then it takes me 3 times on a name, so please forgive me. Thank you, Alice. That was really beautiful.
They're just pictures coming to me, Dharmendra, again, they always come to me. And I just really wanted to, whew, yeah, that's just filling me up, wow. Oof. Oof. I don't know if I need to say anymore. It's just like, oh my God, that just blew my head top off. I'm just filled with love. You know, it's just like expansive and really huge. I'm just going to leave it there, actually. Wow.
Yeah, you just did the whole room. Okay, we're good with that. That's always fun. We'll just call that superabundance, for want of a better word. This gap, something that is, I would say, Siddha related, is that Dr. Sailesh Rao just posted, Elon Musk tweeted, everybody going vegan still wouldn't stop climate change. But Dr. Sailesh Rao responded, would you like to debate me on this topic, Elon Musk? Please check out the Animal Agriculture white paper where I've spelled out my position in advance, Earth Day, April 22nd, 2020 in San Francisco Bay. And San Francisco Bay Area, Elon Musk, you are on. Stay tuned. So just a little bit of what I think definitely supports Siddha stuff on several levels. Yeah, because he's a big player and probably the closest, you know, of the super rich to anything we're putting out there right now, as far as I know. So cool.
Yeah, and maybe veganism alone wouldn't do it, but veganism combined with solar radiation management, combined with radical collective intelligence, wabunga, done and done.
The Trinity.
And that's what Vegan Reflection is going to be exploring, that holy trinity within vegan collective intelligence.
Anybody else have a Siddha as we're coming to the almost the conclusion of this meeting for tonight? Anybody else feel like jumping into the as we are there's the configuration we're creating tonight with all of us. That's the higher being of the totem of, I'm not sure the name, but I can tell by the look. It's a being within a being.
It's the Black Virgin. She's the ultimate of the divine feminine. She was silenced by Christianity for thousands of years, and this is sitting in our apartment here. Incredible.
Well, it also reminds me, just because of Black, the mystery and the feminine mystique, and the fact that something new is being birthed out of the great, the divine wisdom of the universal life force, energy, wisdom, mother, whatever you want to call it, into the world right now. So yeah, that it really is. It really is. Because everything in existence is anyway just a fraction of that life force anyway. So it, depending on what size it is, determines what it is. We're a certain size of the universal life force wisdom, so we're called human. Angels are a different size. They're a little bigger. And then there's other beings that are even bigger and others that are even bigger. So really that's a good point and a good way to tie all this together right now, so we can kind of get a bead on actually what we're, you know, laying our consciousness to rest in right now, with all of us in the same prayer wheel. And that was really good, Melissa. That actually changed the mood into the actual feeling of what it's like to be in a Acidic prayer wheel. It really, we're really right now we're steeped in a kind of atmosphere that's thick with consciousness. Yeah, I'll keep it kind of mysterious. There's a lot more I could say, but I'll leave it at that, kind of undefined. It's definitely very thick though right now. So that was a really good one. That was a good timing on that. So I'm going to be, it's going to be about another 10 minutes. So if anybody else has a sitta that wants to pop out, don't hesitate.
I don't know if this is a sitta, but just following on.
Of
what-
course it is, Deborah. We're in the sitta stage, so it doesn't matter what you do.
There we go. Okay. But just in the, you know, the bringing up the feminine and the sacred feminine, and the birth and the compassion and the tradition that I studied, and this ties into what you were saying earlier, Dharmendra. But about the feminine and birthing, and I don't know if you actually said that or if I was just in it in the moment when you were talking, but it's like the in the tradition that I studied is the name for the divine compassion, the ocean of compassion, which is like the that through which all things flow. There is source, and there is then the compassion from the source, and then through the ocean of compassion all things flow into existence. And that the name for that ocean of compassion is Rahman, the same as the name of the womb in the woman, Rahim. And the it's the bridge between the worlds, just as the womb of the woman is the bridge between the worlds. And it is that it is the place through which all things flow, the bridge from source into manifestation, and it's also where we come to as we come back home, and to land and to be in the presence and in the in the all encompassing. And it's like in the archetypal of the masculine and the feminine. The masculine is that which goes out, the doing, the going out, the doing, and the feminine is the coming home and the resting and the being. And as you look at the collective, and in the way that we have traveled on this planet, that it's coming from a state of existence to a state of moving from a unity into a multiplicity, and into a doing, and coming to that place of then recognizing our separation at a point where we've got to get back home in order to return and save ourselves. And that's that return to the feminine, the return to this place. And in the from the I think, I believe, to I know in my heart, to I am. And the womb center, or the creativity center, being that place of I am, where we can really land into our bodies and into that state of being and connection with the planet and with all that is on the planet, where we can really return to that place of oneness and connection, and that ultimate compassion and caring for all that is on the planet. And I can't wait for our interview on Saturday. I don't know if we'll get to that point on of exploring this change that is coming about, because I've been hearing a lot about this change that's coming about in the in the gates, and in the state of humanity where we'll no longer be able to have the relationship that we've had with animals. But and how our collective is evolving in that way. But on the greater scheme of things, just looking at as individual human beings, as we come as spirits into physical form on this earth, we go through the process of forgetting our connection and our unity, and we venture out and we have our journey, and then we recognize, oh crap, I lost myself and I've got to get back, and we start making our way back, and to returning and healing and unity. And as a collective, we've done the same. And I think that we're at that point of making our way back as a collective to return in order to save ourselves and all of the planet and humanity.
Yeah, totally. And if you want to open up that coming opening of the gate and what's coming, you can take it anywhere you want to. It's all in the questions you ask. So that's totally. I can go anywhere. You just have to open. It's just all in the kind. It's all in the questions you ask. But
we'll see where it goes. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I know. Who knows what'll open it? So that's a good thing to end on. This Saturday, noon Arizona time, is Facebook Live. Deborah's interviewing me through her thing, and if you scroll up the Zoom group chat, the links are there if you're interested in doing that. And I think that was really a very succinct and rather poignant synthesis of kind of everything this evening, and kind of wrapped everything together in a really nice way. So thank you, Deborah, for that. And definitely that was definitely Siddha stuff. Yes, that's what we're doing here in this. And to me personally, this is like the first real successful meeting in terms of, and it takes a while obviously to get there, but this was the first successful meeting of all 3 steps, where everybody I felt took it into themselves, into their heart and their belly and everything, to step into that space, come hell or high water, and just see what happens with what the heck is this Siddha thing, and let's just do it. Everybody's wisdom came out one way or another. And that's really all we're doing. And wisdom is just your essence, the mature part of your essence. It's really all it is. And we've learned a lot in life, and if we can just remove the conditioning and be who we are and express it, it's really that simple. It's not some big complicated thing, And the more we do it, the more we come together, and the more we keep reflecting each other through the multiple mirrors we're giving each of us, the more we can help each other. That's why I say it's accelerated, because everybody who shared essence tonight did the work of the whole room. Every time they shared, everybody else got that work instantly. It wasn't like we had to spend all the years figuring all that out on our own, because everybody just gave it. And when you're giving of essence and you're open to essence, it's instantaneous. And then you got to share your own essence, so everybody else got your work. So it's really kind of a beautiful thing in that way. And that's why I'm so excited about sharing it, because it's really can accelerate our evolution in our consciousness. It really can. It's for real. It is a real thing. So, and I'm just so happy, and just feel so honored and grateful that I have wise and brave and intelligent beings to share it with. And I can't wait to see how it keeps opening up. It opened up quite a bit tonight, and I want to keep going further. I get excited because when it starts to open up like this, the next couple of steps, then it's this like diving through space in an indescribable way through your belly, that there's no drug on the planet that comes even infinitely close to what it feels like, let alone what happens to your mind and the clarity that comes there, and the amount of stuff you can grok while we're doing that. So but we got so far tonight that I can say that and it makes sense. And it doesn't sound like, something out of a sci-fi.
I just wanted to share something with Deborah, if I may, Dharmendra, and then
Yeah.
I don't want to.
But that's great, and that'll be the close, because we're getting to the close.
What is coming to me, Deborah, is high priestess. You are a high priestess. That's what I saw. And it gave me goosebumps, and I still have them. And so I think that I just wanted to gift you that image, because I think your embodiment of high priestess, that you can carry that out into this work you're doing in the world. Yeah, I'm not going to say more about that. So thank you for sharing your
Melissa.
priestessness with us. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Thank
pretty
you.
good. I like that. So if anybody, I guess, well, no, I would say that's probably good. We went a half hour over, but I don't care. But that's about all the over I can do during the week when I have to get up at 3 a.m, start my day tomorrow. So that's just me. Hyper discipline.
Thank you, Dharmendra.
Yeah, and thank all of you. It's so lovely tonight
Thank
to go all the way through the steps now. And so now we have a bunch of seasoned warriors of light, rainbow warriors of light. And when I say warrior, it's not about war, it's about mutation, transmutation. That's the new definition of Mars. That's being upgraded by the mother too. It is no more about war. Man is about mutation, about change, not about war, not about killing. We don't change by destroying things. We change by having unbending intent and the courage to do so for the betterment of all beings everywhere. So on that note, for the betterment of all beings everywhere, I would love to say lovely connecting with all of you. Peace be in your hearts, and may your bellies be full and your minds be empty. Okay, until next time.